Welcome to my podcast, Sac Taff. I think, should I take this microphone out of the way or should I leave it there? Yeah, so I've been reading some parts of my book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, because that's what the podcast is about, really. Mainly about this book here. And I've shared up until secondary school. And last week I didn't expect to be sort of like branching into college, early years of college. So what I've decided to do is take a few steps back and basically share so you can get to know a little bit more about Rebecca's character. Because I shared how she's gone through secondary school. And okay, it says she's gone to the secondary school and she's met up with her friends, which has surprised me that I did, but this is what happened. Met up with my friends, walked to school, and then we've gone into the assembly and names are being called out to so that the pupils know which classes they're in. I go into my class, but none of my friends are in my class, and I'm like, that must have been done on purpose, and I was pleased about that, actually. But I'm still not fully happy about being in the school. But I'll share about an incident. I thought this happened I can't remember it happening in secondary school though. So basically it's got here that the inside of the school, the secondary school, was old-fashioned in contrast to its modern exterior. This gave her a feeling of security. In time, her favourite subjects turned out to be English and sociology. The latter was especially interesting because it related to everyday life. That was when she began to understand why it was called sociology. And so she actually started to enjoy the new class. Her only problem was break and lunch times when the girls would huddle together and socialise. And basically I shared how she'd spend time with them at break time and then go out, at lunchtime. It was that sort of thing. Which I thought very clever. Yeah, so basically this relieved her from the discomfort of being with a group which silently mocked her. And then it's got here, there's a particular instance in a maths class. So there was one occasion when Rebecca was accused of copying another girl's maths homework. She was ordered to see the deputy headmistress, Mrs. Cassie, not knowing why. So Rebecca obeyed and headed for the office. She knocked and was told to enter. She looked at Mrs. Cassie with large puzzled eyes as she walked towards the desk. "Sit down," the teacher said. Rebecca complied, wondering why she had been summoned. "You must know why you've been called to my room." Rebecca looked perplexed. "No, I don't." "Well, you're obviously going to play games, so I'll explain it to you. It is because Mr. Brodie has reported that you've been copying Michaela's maths homework." "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about." Mrs. Cassie opened Rebecca's maths book and placed it on her desk, followed by Michaela's maths book, and so on and so forth. And she's sort of saying, it's a bit funny how your homework is exactly the same as Michaela's. And it's clearly obvious that this is what the teacher was saying, that Rebecca has copied Michaela's homework. And then Rebecca's basically adamant, and she's saying, "I did that work on my own. My dad did have to explain it to me more clearly, but I didn't copy anyone's homework." And then the teacher, obviously she didn't believe Rebecca, so she was basically put into confinement. So she said that the only thing that's going to make you speak the truth before the afternoon ends is solitary confinement. Come with me. So Mrs. Cassie walked towards the room situated at the side of the main hall and left Rebecca there after telling her that she would return in an hour to hear the truth. Rebecca tried the door, turned the handle several times and realised that she was locked in. This astounded her. She had never been locked in a room before. Although she enjoyed solitude, she preferred the freedom of coming and going as she pleased. So the room was painted white. There was a large wooden table in the centre surrounded by 4 chairs. She peered out of the window, but all she could see was the side of the school building. She sighed, sat down on one chair and fiddled with her cardigan buttons. After some time, she had no other option than to stare into space. Rebecca waited impatiently for the allotted time to end so that she could return to her class. All the time, her anger was rising, and Mrs. Cassie unlocked the door. She was in no mood. So, well, I'm going to have to change that. There's something I've written there. It's like, why did I write that? So I'm going to have to edit it. So, well, have you decided to tell the truth? Mrs. Cassie asked. Yes, I have. And do you want to know what the truth is? Mrs. Cassie looked at Rebecca closely and nodded. Well, the truth is that I didn't copy Michaela's homework. I did it by myself with some help from my father. And do you want to know why he had to help me? Because he keeps telling me how important it is to achieve good grades in maths, to have a good career. Before, I just couldn't be bothered to raise my standards in maths, but now I have decided otherwise. So, you have no right to call me into your office and accuse me of stealing Michaela's homework. You didn't even bother interviewing Michaela with me to find out the truth. You simply jumped to conclusions and decided, okay, Michaela's obviously more intelligent than me. That's a cheek in itself. Well, you're wrong and I deserve an apology. Mrs. Cassie was taken aback. It was obvious that Rebecca was telling the truth, and she was surprised to see the change in her character in a usually polite girl. She hesitated before saying, okay, Rebecca, you can return to the classroom. Rebecca left without saying another word. The subject was closed, although no apology was made. The following morning, the girls had a double maths class with a short interval between the lessons. Mr. Brodie had set the girls some work, which they did in complete silence until he started speaking very slowly. And I remember this, some of it, but I do remember it being raised up. And I remember that there was, just a little bit of a tension in the air, and it was just, I remember this. I do remember it. So did you know that there's someone in this class who may have completely misunderstood? It's so nice if someone says that we actually misunderstood you. Yeah. Who is totally different from the girl we all think. And who has the courage and ability, if anything goes wrong concerning herself, to stand up and defend herself. Whoa! Rebecca saw from his expression that he understood and respected her. This was obviously a form of an apology. Do you want to know who that person is? He went on. Rebecca kept her head down as the girls looked around the classroom, hoping to see who he was talking about. Do you want to know who? The girls looked at him questioning, I'm going to have to do some editing. They questioned him anyway. They looked at him wondering. It's Rebecca. They were all totally amazed, but nobody questioned her about the matter. If they had, she would have kept the incident to herself. And there you go. So I don't remember him mentioning me. I don't remember him, but I do remember him bringing the subject up. And it goes to show that some of the characters that we have when we're younger, if it's a positive part of our character, I can see that part of my character is still in me, especially when she says that Rebecca, if someone had asked her about the incident, she would have kept the incident to herself. There's certain things, I'm like, I like to share, and then there's certain things that, it's not either it's not the time to share, or there's no need, and I do. It is amazing, when I look back and see myself then at the age of 15, how some of those characteristics are still with me, but it's just developed more. And I remember a few years ago, someone said to me that my children can be quite stubborn, and they get that from you, but you've learned to use your stubbornness in a beneficial way. It's different the way that you use it, you know. And I've always remembered when she said that. Yeah, so, and I guess it can be the same as if you've got a characteristic that isn't beneficial and it's not positive. And if it's not sort of extinguished, if there's no one there helping you to nurture you out of it, you take it down as you grow. As you grow, you take it with you, and it can get worse as you get older. You know, so and some things I've written in this book, I can't remember in detail. So I'm so grateful I wrote it when I did. There was a reason why I was supposed to write the book. You know, even if it's just for me to resonate and just to see the difference in, you know, in character and how I've changed and how certain things were supposed to be for a particular reason. I can see it definitely. So yeah, so that was one of the incidents anyway that took part in the secondary school. And trying to think, yeah, just looking at how long I've got to talk, or how long I'm going to talk for. So there you go. And then we've got to the point now. After that, everything settled down. However, Rebecca was still unhappy with her peer group. She needed good friends, and she came to believe that the only way she could find them was to go to a different school. The further away she was from the girls who had been mocking her, the sooner she would be able to make new friendships, which would certainly bring a new social life. And that evening, she nervously confronted her father. The sooner she tackled this problem with him, the better it would be in the long run. So she waited patiently for him to settle down in his usual armchair before raising the subject. Rebecca stood by the radiator for warmth and comfort, hoping this would relax her as she prepared to ask the question. "Daddy," she managed to say, "I was just wondering whether it would be possible for me to change schools." He looked at her. He looked towards her. "Why?" "Because I'm just not happy in the school I'm in." In case this was not enough, she quickly thought of another reason why her father should consider her request. She continued, "And another school might be better to give me a better education." Much to her surprise, her father seemed very cool about her request. "All right," he said, "I'll see what I can do for you." Yeah, so the following day, when she returned from school, her parents were sitting in the living room waiting for her. She went upstairs to get changed first and then joined them. Her father told her that he had telephoned a number of local schools, one of which is found particularly interesting. This was St. James, a private convent school. Rebecca was excited by the news. She remembered when the family had gone to York for a holiday and stayed in the convent where her mother had been a pupil. And the nuns were so friendly, and the thought of going to private school added an intriguing new dimension. She could go to St. James. She would be able to enjoy school life again. The thought of making new friends, leading an enjoyable social life at the weekends, not to mention a new school uniform and new books, filled her with joy. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. There's a reason why I'm saying it like that. It's, you know, it just goes to show anyway. They go eventually. They go and see the school, and the school takes her on. I remember I was looking forward to getting my science lab. They had a science lab jacket. They had like this white science lab jacket. It was like, oh, I can't wait to get that, you know. And I had, you know, grey skirt. I remember it was like a royal blue jumper with grey around the V-neck. Did they wear a tie? I think they wore a tie. I can't remember. Grey socks, black shoes, and yeah, I was just happy to leave the school. I really was. Let's see. Yeah, so there you go. And luckily, because I was the youngest of six and my siblings were a bit older than me, they basically, the older ones more or less were working, or they were maybe working and also training to do the profession they wanted to do, something like that. My parents sort of were in a situation where they could send me off to private school, so I was very privileged about private school. The thing about private school, I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity. I really am grateful for it. And the reason why is because sometimes I hear some people talk about private school, how they went to private school. And I'm not saying it to offend anyone. I'm just basically just saying it from making an opinion, all right? So sometimes I hear people talk about how either their children go to private school, or you hear people talk about going to private school, and I listen, and then what I do is I listen for a little bit of snobbery behind it. Sometimes there's a bit of snobbery behind it, because a private school, you got to pay fees, so you must have a little bit of money there to be able to. Even now, I've heard in this day and age, some people they're not in a situation where they can really afford it, but what they do is they make that sacrifice because they really want their child to go to a private school, because they feel their child is going to do better and be surrounded, they just like the whole sort of package, and so on and so forth. But sometimes there is a bit of snobbery there. And I remember hearing someone say that they went to private school, and this person went to private school, so I'm letting them carry on with their conversation. And then I said, I actually went to private school as well. I went to a private school and a private college. And then what happens is they say, no, but this person went to private school from the time they were like an infant. And it humours me. I don't say it, just humours me, because I just feel as though I know that you can get good schools. Some schools are better than others. I know that you can, right? But if your child is focused and really wants to learn, and you as parents, you as guardians, support their learning and you help them as much as you can, they can thrive and do really well. And the reason why I say that is my children went to state schools, and I've still got 2 children in 2 state schools, and one's in a college. And the older ones all thrived. They did so well. So well. I mean, one, they went to university, and one went to Manchester University, another one went to Nottingham University. All of them went to university, and they all did well. And then one of them, the jobs that they have they're very good jobs. And these are children that went to state schools, and it just humours me. And I hear it every now and then. I hear it, and sometimes I mention it, especially if someone has recently someone has a younger child, and they were trying to figure out which school they were going to take their child to. And they were saying, no, I think I might take him I think we're going to put him into a private school, because, and I said that I went to a private school, but what amuses me is the snobbery some people have about private schools. I said, I'm not saying that you're doing it. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that sometimes when people mention that they either went to private school, the children went to private school, there's a little bit of snobbery behind it. And that's why I'm glad that I went to both a state school and a private school. And I said that my children went to state school, and all of them have done, the older ones, all of them have done well, and they all made it to university, and they've all got, they're all doing well in their careers, and what can you say about that? What can you say? The person just said to me, oh, how was private school? And I said, it was all right, even though, I had my issues, but any school you go to, you're going to have your issues anyway, but there you go. I just find it amusing. I really do. But I'm glad that I was able, like I say, I'm glad I was able to see both sides of it. And the reason why we're saying how Rebecca was excited about going to her new secondary school, the way I was saying it, is because the grass isn't always greener. It is nice if you can have a new start somewhere, but you're still going to face some sort of an opposition, and you need to learn how to deal with it. And if you don't learn and you keep on moving because you think, oh, the grass is going to be greener here, it's going to be difficult for you to get on in life. There has to come a point where you have to see the pattern and figure out, how can I break this pattern? How, why am I experiencing this, and how can I deal with it? So there you go. What else? Yeah. Yeah, so that was her. That was her. I'm really procrastinating because I'm getting to when she becomes a teenager soon. It's like, oh, but I'm gonna share with you. I'm gonna share with you. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, at least she got into the school. She got into the school. Rebecca rushed to greet her mother when they returned, excitedly informing her that she had been accepted at St. James. Mrs. Barrickle smiled as she listened to her daughter's good news. One by one, Rebecca removed all the new items from the car. She was still dazzled by the white coat. I can even remember it. Oh, sorry. That she would have to wear in the science laboratory. Her pleasure and enthusiasm was obvious for all to see and brought joy to her parents. Um, yeah. So Mr. Barracu wrote a letter to the headmistress of her present school, and Rebecca handed it to her personally. She said nothing at the time to any of the other pupils. She chose instead to give them the news only in the last week before her departure. I thought I was going to say that. I said nothing at all. I just left. Yeah, you know. Many of the pupils were sorry to see her go. The girls in her peer group, however, had little to say to her. They knew exactly why she was really leaving and why she was going so suddenly. There you go. See, I'm glad I was able to leave though. I wasn't happy in that school. I mean, I'm looking back now, and it's easier said than done. Me saying that the grass isn't greener on the other side, but at that time, I really wanted to leave that school, and I think I needed to see that the grass wasn't greener, or I needed to. I think I need. I think I needed to see that you can't keep moving. I needed to experience that and make that decision. Look, I've got to figure out why the same thing or similar things are happening. I'm so grateful that I was able to do that instead of being forced in a situation, desperately wanting to get out of it, and maybe getting sad or depressed or anything like that. Luckily, my parents were open-minded and they were willing to listen to what their daughter wanted and they were willing to help. So I was really, really, I felt really, really blessed to have parents like that. Really blessed to have parents like that. I was going to share something else. Yeah, I was going to share with you that I went to get together. I'm not going to say the actual age thing yet. I went to get together where we a friend of mine that I met recently, who was in the secondary school and I hadn't seen her for years. When I was selling my book, I do canvassing, right? She heard my voice and knew it was me. And it was like, oh, is that Rosalind? Yeah. And so we started chatting and so on and so forth. And she got together a get-together whereby the people in the secondary school could get together. When I went, people were wondering why I was there. They were wondering why I was there because they felt as though I was too young to be there. They felt I was too young to be there. One or two people, about 4 or 5 people may have recognised me, and I may have recognised a few people. And when the men came in, I didn't, in the secondary school, I didn't socialise with the boys there. Didn't know any of them. I'm like, I was really, sort of thinking, okay, so these are the boys that that they were socialising with. Oh, maybe I might have missed out on something, but then maybe not. You know what I mean? And it was nice to have that gathering. It was really nice to have that gathering, and I really looked at it and I just thought, I just feel like although things weren't that great then, it sort of molded my life, and I've used what wasn't good and I've turned it around and worked with it to make it beneficial. So my life feels as though there's more going on. I've got a lot more to talk about. Yeah, it just felt, it just feels like that, it really does. And it feels like, and a few people didn't even realise why I'd moved on, changed schools and things like that. And I didn't go into any nitty gritty. I didn't need to. There was one particular woman there that recognised me. I recognised her, And you know what she said to me? She said to me that when you left, sometimes I used to go near where you lived. I used to walk past sort of where you lived, or drive past where you live, or something like that. And she said, no, because there was just something really different about you. You know, there was something really different about you. And I thought, wow, you know, do you know what I mean? And part of me was sort of saying, oh, it's such a shame that I did move on. That's how I felt at the time, you know, and, oh, you know, I could have, you know, but that wasn't the case. I'd moved on. So there you go. So that's just another part of Rebecca Barracu's life regarding schooling. I've still got more to share as regards to the rest of her, just little bits. I'll just briefly share about a little bit more about her secondary school life, and then I'll go on to college. And then we're moving on to something else, which is going to be, it's going to get more personal. But yeah, so I hope that you're enjoying what I'm sharing with you. And I thought I'd get straight into the book before I think I was procrastinating and sharing other things, which is still okay, you know. If you want to follow me on the rest of my socials, my Instagram is Roslyn1325. I'm on Facebook as Roslyn Roberts. I'm on X at author_RR Roberts. Oh, I've got to learn it now. That's good, isn't it? I'm on Threads. And also on YouTube. Welcome, Roslyn Roberts. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.